Now to the search as it continues for Nancy Guthrie. Late today, law enforcement confirmed that they have ruled out every single member of the Guthrie family as potential suspects. Today, co-host Savannah Guthrie also posted another video pleading for her mother's safe return.
We still have hope, and we still believe. And I wanted to say to whoever has her or knows where she is that it's never too late.
Andres Gutierrez, as he has been for days, going on weeks now, joins us from Tucson. Catch us up on the latest.
Well, major law enforcement sources tell CBS News that officials out here are using a very high-tech device that it's called the so-called signal sniffer that essentially picks up low-powered electronic signals. It's usually mounted on a helicopter, flies low, sweeping for any blip that could match the pacemaker of Nancy Guthrie. It often detects a signal. It helps narrow down a search to a smaller area that ground crews can focus on. Investigators usually turn to it in cases of tough missing person cases like this one. But so far, law enforcement have not said if they have received any hits so far when it comes to Nancy Guthrie's case.
And the statement late this afternoon ruling out every single member of the Guthrie family as a potential suspect. That was, as I read the statement, a signal to those who have been speculating about this to try to sort of close that off as something that investigators, either local or federal, are pursuing.
Absolutely. At this point, they're saying that the family is not a suspect in this case, that any assumptions or tying it is essentially cruel. The FBI, though, now leaning on forensic evidence. They're saying that one of the 16 gloves that they recovered out here at the scene matches the one that was seen on that doorbell camera video. We're told that by investigators that they have developed a male DNA profile from that glove, and they are entering into CODIS, which is the FBI National DNA database. If there is someone in that database that it matches to, we could have a name tied for the suspect. However, remember, you are only on this database if you have ever been charged or convicted of a crime, which is about 6 to 7% of the U.S. population. However, if they don't get a hit there, they could always turn to genealogy companies and see if there's anyone who perhaps matches that profile there. On Friday, they also ended up carrying out a search warrant at a home at a neighborhood about 2 miles west of where we're at. They ended up questioning the people in that home. They released them. There was also a driver that was pulled over about 7 minutes south from that house into a Culver's parking lot. That's a fast food joint for those on the East Coast. That person was questioned, also released. So at this point, they are essentially leaning on these forensics, hopefully closing in on a suspect. But right now, there are all this manpower that's been dedicated to this case, more than 13,000 tips that are still currently being vetted, and more resources continue to be brought in here, Major.
Andres Gutierrez in Tucson for us. Thank you so very much. Former FBI agent Lance Leising joins me now. Lance, I'm glad to have your expertise here. As you peer into this case, now in its third week, what stands out to you?
I think it's progressing like you would expect. So this isn't a case where you have all the time in the world. You've got a victim out there that still could easily be in danger, and time is still of the essence, even though a lot of time has passed. So you're going to see investigators take a few risks, lean forward on any probable cause they have to search a residence or to reasonable suspicion to detain an individual. And they're likely doing that a little quicker than they would in a case where you don't have an outstanding victim, because they want to find this victim, right? So you're seeing evidence of that. You're seeing some detentions and then release. You're seeing a search, but the individuals were released. And that's a nature of a case where you've got a victim outstanding and you're leaning forward, trying to do as much as you can to find her.
Lance, you just heard Andres reference this glove and the DNA analysis. For the glove to be there and to be related to this crime, the criminal would have to be incredibly clumsy. Am I wrong about that?
Well, you're not wrong at all. There's some evidence of the clumsiness from the surveillance videos released from the Nest camera. I mean, it does not look like somebody who's prepared to commit a professional level crime. It looks like somebody who's done some some research on how to conceal themselves or keep some forensic evidence out of there. But if they left a glove behind, a glove which would absolutely contain forensic evidence, that's unusual. I would like to know exactly where that glove was found. We would like to know a lot of other things. And your reporter was right that a hit and CODIS would be ideal. However, any unknown DNA from an item that was intimately part of the crime scene is huge direct evidence. It'll ultimately help validate tips in the future. And then forensic genetic genealogy that he was referring to. When I worked in the FBI, we solved several cases using that, and it's like pulling a suspect out of thin air. That takes a little more time. You might not see something immediate there, but that could help solve the case as well.
Lance, it has been said in other venues and online, it doesn't look like these investigators are getting very far. It looks like they're bumbling, tripping over themselves. It has been my experience, and I used to do this earlier in my career, that investigators will take that public dialogue all the time because they're doing other things that are invisible by their very nature.
We probably only know 5% of what those investigators know. They're pursuing leads proactively and also reactively. The 13,000 outstanding tips, they're reacting to those. However, the proactive nature of every item you saw in that surveillance video, of all these other tips that have come in and their follow-up and investigation of those, of cellular analysis, of the electronic devices like the pacemaker they're searching for, all of these are avenues they're pursuing. It is easy to sit back and be a Monday morning quarterback in hindsight, but these cases are complex. They're overwhelming. The number of tips, you have a true whodunit, so there's pressure because you want to solve this for the victim and the victim's families. But it looks to me like the investigation is progressing. It's also narrowing and focusing. The announcement today that the family's not suspects, that's a focusing of the investigation. That helps investigators as well.
The Pima County Sheriff, Chris Nanos, told my colleague, Jonathan Vigliotti, there's been no sign of life. But I'm not going to tell you, too, there's been no sign of death. The family believes she's alive. They have that hope. So do we. Does that sound confident to you?
It's a telling statement. And in fact, I think that's a good statement. I think if you're a dedicated investigator, you're going to hold out hope as long as you can. You're not going to dismiss the possibility that she might be alive. So you're going to lean forward into evidence. You're going to search houses maybe before you would if you think she's dead. You're going to detain people and talk to people and try to get to the bottom of a lead very quickly. I think they're doing that here. As an investigator, you've got to hold out a little bit of hope, but be rational and look at all objective leads. As a family member, you're going to hold out hope as long as you can.
Lance Leising, I appreciate the time and expertise very much, sir. Thank you.